First of all, one question. Anyone here speaking German, or most of all speaking German? So we have some that require English. Yes, okay. Good. Then I would suggest let's start. First, one thing about me. My name is Markus Nödl. I'm working as a senior storage architect at a company called Anexia, and have an experience the last couple of years, 10 plus years. I was working exclusively in the storage industry, and for the last 3 years I was mainly focused on service providers. And for what I do as my line of work, I'm deep into the automation, I'm deep into the infrastructure stuff, obviously mostly storage, but that's what I do. I'm involved in developing for our future products what we will release to our customers and what we will provide as infrastructure services, as well as I'm acting as kind of a trusted advisor when we go to larger customers, when there are specific needs and specific requirements. That's what I will be here for when there are some special requests. That's what I do, mainly, as well as giving talks. A short intro to the company I'm working now. So Anexia, we're currently about 200, over 200 employees right now. We have 12 offices in 4 countries. So we started out in Austria. Our headquarters is in Austria, in Carinthia. We have some facilities in Vienna, we have some facilities in Germany, as well as 2 offices in America as well. We operate on over 90 server locations worldwide, and the company exists now since 12 years. So we have a bit of experience in what we are doing in providing infrastructure services, which you can tell by the 10,000 plus customers what we currently have active running on our systems. The company itself, we focus mainly on 2 parts. We focus on one side on software development, so it goes from mobile developments, apps, games, web shops, so web development as well. And the other big thing where I'm located is the IT infrastructure bit and cloud services. So we provide hosting, we provide managed services, we provide network infrastructure, computing resources, storage resources, you name it. And that's operated mostly on our own, it's operated on our own infrastructure, mostly in data centers we already own. Some of our data centers are as well shared data centers, but all our data centers are ISO certified, so we have covered that all. Someone told me, or there is a saying, cloud is just someone else's hardware, which is partly true, but the times are changing and everything's shifting in my point of view. And it's shifting from, if you take the early 2000s, infrastructure was one of the most important things you can have. So everyone was focused on infrastructure, everyone had running their own servers, their own hardware, their own network. Everything was owned by the company. The applications, they conform to the infrastructure. And in the last couple of years, so let's take 2010 for instance, the infrastructure bit's still somewhat important, but the apps, they take over more and more of the infrastructure. The apps have requirements. The apps require specific networking, specific storage, specific compute, like containers, which were coming up at around that time. So everything was more focused on the apps, less around the infrastructure. And if we look into the future, the apps and the infrastructure will even become a smaller part, and data that is what takes over. So the interesting thing is not what you own in your data center, not what you're running at, because technology changes ever so often, but the data is that what is important for you. So we are focusing, besides other stuff, we are focusing on that. And what we do and what we see as the challenge, you obviously have to store all that data. You have to process all that data, and from that you want to gain some insights. You want to see some patterns emerging, you want to have some business intelligence, you want to benefit from the data you have. So from the storage part, it's pretty easy. The protocols, they haven't changed at all over the last years. So we're talking about CIFS in the Windows world, NFS primarily in the Unix world, the block protocols like iSCSI and Fiber Channel, as well as newer protocols like S3, as you might know, which is an object storage protocol which can scale with massive amounts of data in the hundreds of petabytes. And that's what we combine in a product we call Anexia Dynamic Storage. That combines all that different protocols and flattens that layer into one piece what you are working with. We call it Anexia Dynamic Storage. In the processing, it's quite a similar thing. You're running no longer on physical machines alone, you're running mostly out of virtual machines, or since time passes, you're running on containers. They provide you abilities to scale your applications, because that's the most important thing. You can run your DevOps environment, your continuous development, continuous integration. You want to have that running, for instance, on containers because of the easy scaling. That's what we combine into our Anexia Dynamic Compute product. And from that, you want to have your insights. You want to aggregate the data on all of the different pieces in your data center. You want to aggregate the data, what you have on storage. You want to process that data and analyze that data via the compute, the processing power. And then you might want to trigger some actions. You want to have control over that data. And that's what we combine in our so-called Anexia engine, which is our let's call it management platform for all of what you like to have. And I want to give you a little bit of an example. As I was saying, I'm working in the storage industry, and I'm working mainly focused on the storage part in our company. I wanted to give you a little bit of an example what we can do and how we started out building all those services on our own platform. So what we took initially from the storage part, we were talking with NFS, because what we do is we have to make that all happen, to make that all interconnect and process and run on those different platforms. We chose from the storage side to go with NFS and put all that on containers. So that containers, as I said, they will provide you with the flexibility to rapidly change. If you are in the development process, you can deploy within seconds or minutes. So if you fix a bug, if you release a new feature, you check in your for instance, Git repository, kick off the continuous development process, and deploy it to your live system. And from that, we gain certain capabilities. For instance, we gained global logging of all the individual components, as well as the global logging about the storage. So to give you an idea what this does is, we use the dynamic compute engine, the container part of it. We deploy that piece of software that interacts with the storage part, which in turn can itself configure them. It sounds like kind of a recursion, but that's truly how it works. So you can go ahead, run your containers, and those containers, they may need persistent storage for some temporary data, for some features you might have. And that's the container itself, the services running on the containers, they can act on the storage and provide that for themselves. And that's what we do internally. So we can also then gather, because all of the storage system we own, and those are about 120-ish, 130-ish controllers worldwide. We gather all that data, for instance, for capacity and for performance, and collect that centrally within the Anexia engine. And from there we gain our insights. So for instance, if you take capacity data, you can't really control as an infrastructure provider. You can't tell your customer how much data he wants to put in, how the data growth will be. You can't really tell if you start with a new product, how much data that product possibly generates. You can roughly estimate, but you never know exactly. So what we can do is, with that concept, we start out, and because we have that monitoring in place, we can run those trigger-based actions. For instance, your storage you consume is getting full, and before it's full and you can't write anymore and you lose probably log-worthy data, for instance, we can define triggers and let everything grow dynamically or even shrink dynamically as per policy configured. And not only that, we can also, based on the performance data, for instance, in that specific scenario, we can, for instance, scale the containers we need up and down in real time, and we also can move the data in real time where it's needed, where the computing resources are. As we saw on one of the first slides, that data is getting more important, and because it's more important, you want to have your data and your processing where you need it, not where your infrastructure resides. That's the change, what we notice is happening. So we are trying to make all that possible, and with the Anexia engine, we're having that as a website, as a GUI, where you can click and point your stuff together, or everything is API powered. So you can deploy your containers, you can deploy your VMs, even you can deploy your storage. You can all automate that via APIs and integrate that in all those other processes, like in all your DevOps processes you might run. As I said, continuous deployment, continuous integration, that's all part of that. And that's what I wanted to show you as an example, that not only our customers, we ourselves, we rely on each of those technologies, what we build, and all those services, what we're able to provide to our customers. We use them ourselves, improve them ourselves, and together with what the customers require and what the customers request and our internal needs, we manage it to provide that, and we have this continuous development and integration cycle ourselves. That's kind of a rolling release, and you see new features coming in almost every day. And as we're a little bit short on time for this presentation, because actually when I'm doing this it would be something like around an hour, so I really compressed it down. In summary, I just wanted to sum up again. ADS, the Anexia Dynamic Storage, is that part where you store, where you place, and where you scale your data and your storage. In the Anexia Dynamic Compute, the second part, is that where you can process your data. And I'm specifically stated processing, because I don't like to talk about machines, virtual machines, servers, because that stuff doesn't matter anymore so much. It mattered in the 2000s where infrastructure was big, but now who really cares about servers? Who really cares about where the application is running? The application should run, the application should perform. You don't really care about the infrastructure so much. That's why they dynamically process. And for the last part, the engine, which gives you the control, which gives you the capabilities to visualize, react, and gain new insights in that data, what you stored and processed on all the other systems. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions or want to know any more details, we have a booth on the other end of the hall. or you can come up to me and we can talk about everything anytime. Thank you.